Hey, I'm Sam with Beautiful Wreath, and today's tutorial is going to be finishing up this base, which we stuffed in a prior video. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it below. But today we're going to finish this up and we are going to stuff it and make this adorable shark wreath. So if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe. Stick around and I'll show you how I finish it. So this is how we're going to make our bow. We're going to use two 2.5s. We're going to use two 1.5s and one 5/8. Okay. I prefer to use a bow maker. If you make hand bows easier, quicker, and more efficiently, by all means, do you, boo. Do what works for you, okay? All right, so I'm going to start off with my first 2.5-inch ribbon. Let's do a funky bow. How about that? Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with, we're going to trim these, but I'm going to start off with about a 9-inch tail. Okay, and then I want to start with, some people like huge big loops. I want to start off with a 7-inch loop. And again, this is personal preference. I usually, the more ribbons I have, I'll start off at like 7.5 or 8-inch if I have like 6 or 7 ribbons. But since I only have 5, we're going to start with our 7-inch loops. And our 9-inch tails. Because you got to remember that 7 inches on loops on either side, that's going to give you a 14-inch bow. Okay. Like that's how big your bow is going to start. Now, granted, we have a 24-inch base, but we want to put some other stuff in there too. I also want to do some ribbon tails. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this tail at 9 inches. We're going to take our next ribbon. We're going to give ourselves a 9-inch tail. And we're going to shorten this one by about a 1/2 inch. So we're going to make this about a 6.5 inch, give or take. Oh no, that's a bummer. All right, so this one this happens a lot. I don't know, can you see that with, yeah, you can. This one is splice. That's where they put 2 rolls of ribbon together. It happens all the time. I don't know if I've ever had a roll of ribbon where it was not spliced. So it sucks because you have to waste ribbon. Like now I can't have a whole 2 loops consecutively without having to cut. However, you know what? We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to lose sleep over it. We're going to adjust. We are just going to have multiple tails on this white shimmer glitter ribbon. And so we're going to make this still 6.5 loop. Our tail is going to be a little shorter up top. That's fine. We'll go ahead and bring we'll bring this one. Once we dovetail, we'll bring this one to match. We'll make this one match. I don't know why I can't talk this morning. It's kind of early. It's kind of early, you guys. All right, so now because my loop is on this side, I'm going to need to make a loop on this other side, which is fine. It's going to be funky. That's why they call it a funky bow. It is what it is, you know? You adapt. You adapt, you guys. No use in crying over spilt milk. But we also want to make sure that this loop is the same size. Everything else we'll deal with. This is going to be 6.5. We're going to cut our 2 tails. All right. Okay, so next up, we're going to do our Shimmer Glitter Aqua, because that is one of the main colors of the school. We're going to do our 9-inch tail. Of course, like I said, we're going to dovetail all these. So we started off with 7, 6.5. This is going to be a 6-inch loop. All right, so I want to make this a 4 loop. I want to do 4 loops on this ribbon. I have 4 tails on the white ribbon. Let's do 4 loops on this ribbon. All right. Next up, we want to do our navy blue raised Swiss dot. All right, so 7, 6.5, 6. We're going to go 5.5 on. So I'm just subtracting about a 1/2 inch every ribbon layer. So every time we add a ribbon, we're just subtracting about a 1/2 inch. I feel like since this navy is such a harsh color, I want to go ahead and do the same thing that I did with the white, where we did 2 separate bows. So let's go ahead and do that. Because this is such a dark color and it's so stark, it looks more complete when it's all the way around and not just on one side or the other, if that makes sense. Now for this 5/8 ribbon, I'm not going to do a whole bow because this is going to be a funky bow. So I really just kind of want to do a little bump or a little loop, a little baby loop. And this is only going to be about 2 inches, maybe 1.5. No, it's 2 inches. Because it's going to be the center. So we don't want it to be too big because then it looks floppy. All right, so I like to take 2 pipe cleaners. I like to marry them together. Unless you order the large, long, extra long pipe cleaners. I know Deco Exchange has those. I am out of the white. All I have are the black long pipe cleaners. But because this ribbon is white and I want to make sure that I'm covering up my mechanics, it's easier to do that if you match the very last ribbon with the pipe cleaner color. Okay, so then, all right, so whenever you're pulling your bow up, some people like to put their pipe cleaner under their bow already in the bow maker. That's kind of what it's there for, but I don't typically do that. I like to wrap my pipe cleaner around my bow. I don't typically do it this way either, but this is the best way to get it as tight as possible. I like to wrap it twice when I do it this way for recording purposes. See how it's flat now? Okay, this angle might be a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to take my bottom layers, right? The bottom layer is that silver and gray glitter, and we're just going to pull because the pipe cleaner is tight. We're going to pull them apart, right? So this tail should be diagonal of this tail. This loop should be diagonal of this loop. And it should be that way all the way through. The exception is our white, because it's got 4 tails. So we just want to make sure that they're pulled apart, right? You just want to make sure it looks full, nice and full, right? There's really no wrong way or right way to do it. You just want to make sure you have good coverage all the way around. Now, once I do that, I like to also kind of push it all to the front from the back. and just kind of give it a twirl just to tighten it up a little bit more. And then I give it another little fluff. That's our fun, funky bow. I'm going to use two different ribbons. I'm going to use our gray, and I'm going to use our white shimmer glitter. So I'm going to cut 7 and 7, and I'm going to cut them at 14 inches. Now we're going to do the same thing with our shimmer glitter white. If you want to take the time to actually separate your ribbons so that they're easier when you go to grab them, I don't know if it saves a little time. I never actually timed myself. Okay, so I know that I want to secure my shark. I don't want to do this side because he's got some little imperfections right here. Not that those would show because we're going to hide this portion with the bow. I like it this way. I am going to hot glue this down, but I want to use this portion right here and zip tie it to my anchor. If you go back and watch the first video on how I made the base, you'll know the reason why I always add a zip tie to the center of my wreaths, even if I don't use it 99% of the time, not always, but is because I like to have that anchor option. All right, so we are going to glue down this guy. Let's go ahead and add his little bow. Let's go ahead and add the bow next. Don't worry about crushing your mesh. Don't worry about your mesh fraying. Don't worry about any of that nonsense, okay? Just get it in there. Don't be afraid to be, you know, rough with it. Look at that. That little shark is just popping up out of the water. Yes, it is. Secure our bow. I think this was a good idea. I think adding the bow before the fin was a good idea, you guys. How adorable is this? There we go. That's adorable. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and show y'all the back. This is what the back looks like so far. This is our anchor in the center, our zip tie. This is our bow. We're going to go ahead and clip that. Or we can actually, we can just make it tie in with the rest of the greenery and push it down so it doesn't scratch anybody's door. That way we hide it. And then the zip tie for the shark is right here on the anchor. All right. We're going to go ahead and we're going to glue him down in a second. But let me switch angles. So our next step is we want to put his fin in. Can y'all see that? Okay. So I want to put his fin in. I haven't glued it down yet, but I'm going to put his fin right here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zip tie his fin to the top or inner ring. And again, if you don't know which is the top or the inner ring, go back and watch the first video on how I stuffed this base and I explain it in depth. Just going to try to straighten it up, make sure that it is even, or at least I say even, but that it's aesthetically pleasing the way I want it. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and step back from it for just a second. That's super cute. All right, so we're going to go ahead and tighten our zip tie. I'm super happy with the way that's coming out so far. Time for a coffee break. Hey, listen, I do crafting and conspiracies sometimes on Friday nights. It just kind of depends. However, you can buy merch to help support your girl. I like how he's popping up. So you know what we're going to do? I don't want to flatten him and like glue him flat. I just want to glue his bottom half that's touching the mesh. And then to secure him, because he's foam, we're just going to secure him to the mesh and to the wreath base by using U-pins. I'm just going to add a little layer of glue. If you don't have a cordless glue gun, thank you to my bestie Megan. She's super special. She's a special kind of person. That this guy is kind of glued in there. I'm going to go in with my handy dandy U-pins. We just want to make sure that he is like glued in, you know, I say glued in, but that he is secured in there. So when we go in, we've glued him in, but we're also going in sideways with our U-pins. We're not going in straight, we're going in sideways. So we're going to grab some of the mesh and we're going to go in sideways. That way it doesn't poke through the front of the shark and you can't see it, okay? And we're going to do it on both sides. And you just need a few. You don't need a whole lot. There we go. All right, he's not going anywhere. He's not. He's in there. I want to do the same thing to our fin. Is his bottom fin, is that the dorsal fin? Is that what that's called? Is that called a dorsal fin? I don't know. If you made it this far in the video, leave me a shark emoji. And or let me know if that's the right name for this fin. Is that the dorsal fin? Or is that a dorsal fin? Or is dorsal fin not a thing on a shark? I don't know. I'm not a marine biologist. But I could tell you about the megalodon. Just saying. New crafting and conspiracies coming soon. You girls crazy over here. We like to have fun. I am all about having fun, not taking myself too seriously, and making cute stuff while I'm at it. This is cute because this is cute. If you don't say this is cute, then that's your opinion. I'm not going to argue with you. All right, so that's done. Okay, friends, now it's time to add our ribbon tails in, where I only use one ribbon in each tie all the way around. And I don't do it in every single tie. I just pick a starting point. I open it up and I put it in there just like the mesh. Hopefully y'all can see that. Let's see if I can maybe point it down a little bit. There we go. And then I go every other. I fold them in half. I crumple them up kind of like a little bird, right? Like a little bird. And then I pick a spot and I tuck them down in. And I twist tie them and then fold over your pine ties so they're not sticking out. And then you've got to manipulate and fluff, especially for ribbons like this that are extremely stiff, like the shimmer glitter. Sorry, I couldn't find my words for a second. So like I said, I don't go in every single tie. It's just my preferred method. I do like to add something to the outside, and this is before I stuff with any glitter picks or embellishments or things of that nature. It's just, again, my preferred method of doing it, and you can do it the way you want. See, I'm can you see that? Let me see, hold on. So I open up 2 ties. I don't undo the tie that's holding or securing the mesh, but I find 2 pieces. Can you see that? So I find 2 ties, and I take my little bird and I stick it down in there, and I twist just like I did our mesh. Okay, and then I fold it in on itself just to make sure it's secure. It's not that hard, you guys. It really isn't. Just practice makes perfect, or practice makes progress, or whatever that saying is. Move y'all back a little bit. I do, in fact, like the bay leaf spray. I'm going to just go ahead and glue them straight in. And I'm making sure that they're touching the mesh. You always want to make sure that when you're adding in your picks and your flowers and all your goodies, that it is secured and it's touching something. So I'm just going to work my way all the way around the inside loop, or the inside ring. This is what we have so far. It is adorable. You could totally stop here if this is your jam, if this is what you want to do, and just kind of clean it up a little bit. I want to add some mesh tubing. You can get this at the dollar store. All right, so what I like to do for when I'm using the mesh tubing is, can y'all see that? I like to just make a little bow. I say little bow. Let's make sure I have a tail. So I give myself enough room for a tail. That's about 6 inches probably. Yep, it's 6.5 inches. And then I like to make a bow, I don't know, maybe about 4 to 5 inches. Yeah, it's about 4.5 inches. They don't have to be super even. It's not like ribbon where it's got to be like kind of exact or it looks kind of funny. All right, so now that I have my first bow done, instead of doing one, putting it in, doing another, putting it in, so on and so forth, I know that I need, let's see, I usually do about 36 inches. It looks like this one's 35 inches. So I'm going to cut a few of these and see how many I get. That way I know how far to space them, right? And again, they don't have to be perfect. Okay, so I have exactly the same amount that I have in ribbon. That's awesome sauce. I like that number for me. Make my little bow. I am going to try to put it in right next to the ribbon. I'm not going to put it in where I put the ribbon in, if that makes sense. Just because I want to give a more full, so if I put it right on top of where I put the ribbon, I feel like it's too bulky right there. At least this gives a little bit of separation of where it tells your eye to look. Okay, I decided I definitely am going to use the silver glitter grass sprays. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them up. I'm going to still pix them, and then I'll go ahead and add them in just randomly on the outer ring, and then we'll be finished. And I'll be back to show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, y'all, here is our finished shark wreath. Thank you for sticking around and watching this tutorial. I sure do appreciate y'all. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share or comment if you've made it this far. Drop me a shark emoji in the comments, and I'll see y'all next video. Bye.